So Milo's about to drop a diss track here because apparently this double XP situation has gotten even crazier. I made a video about it yesterday talking about how they removed the double XP token, the legacy double XP tokens from Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And then literally 2 hours after I uploaded that video, Treyarch announced that they are bringing them back next week in an update. So you're welcome. I'll take full credit for that. But apparently there's a lot more to this than I realized. And Milo, about to drop a diss track here, is going to talk about it. So I'm curious what he has to say. And the big rumor on the street is that Treyarch is lying to us.
Is Treyarch lying? I think there's a possibility they are. And I think that's really weird. Like, it's a very weird thing for them to be lying about. So let me explain what's going on here.
Please do.
You can decide for yourself if you think they're just not telling the truth. Also, if you don't mind, I know this is a bit weird. I've had like a lot of eye strain headaches today, so I'm going to wear my sunglasses. Sorry.
He is going to drop a diss track.
I know it's kind of weird, but I just don't want the headache. So at Black Ops 6 launch, we didn't have access to double XP tokens from previous Call of Duty titles like Modern Warfare 3, Cold War, etc. And so if you still had double XP,
Man, Milo's, I strive to be as cool as Milo.
saved up on those games, you could go back to those games and use those tokens, but in Black Ops 6, you couldn't do it. And then Season 1 launch came along, and that changed, and everyone was kind of surprised about it, but people were finding they had...
Yeah, there was like no announcement that they were re-adding those.
20, 30, 40 hours of double XP saved up in those tokens that they could now use
57 hours
in
of double weapon,
and obviously,
and 57
people were thrilled about this, and it wasn't just double XP, it was also double weapon XP,
and like 20 of Battle Pass.
Double Battle Pass XP. So I was being really positive about this. The Warzone people were being really positive about this. The multiplayer people were being really positive about this. Everyone was happy. Like, actually getting access to things that we've already earned. Like, we've already done the work to get those things. We've already bought the cans of Monster 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. We've already redeemed this and redeemed that and done this in game and stashed up all of those tokens.
We were hoarding.
It would make sense to get access to them, just like how COD points should transfer between game to game.
And they do.
But then, in a twist that no one really saw coming, except really everyone saw this coming, I think, Treyarch decided to just completely remove access to those tokens. So you were just suddenly blocked. Like, you had 24 hours of the potential for you to open up your tokens and use them, but then you were blocked from that point onwards. You couldn't do it anymore. And in the patch notes, they didn't give any proper context about this. They didn't explain the rationale behind it, nothing. They just said, fixed an issue that incorrectly allowed legacy XP tokens to be activated in the Black Ops 6 UI. Now this...
And I'm sure he'll say this, but then you could go into Warzone, activate them there, leave Warzone, and then go into Black Ops 6 and use them.
This was the first time in all of Black Ops 6's life cycle so far, from launch through to now, that I'm aware of at least, where Treyarch have commented on legacy XP tokens.
Did they? I think they did mention them before launch, saying that they weren't going to be there.
Never been a point where they've previously said, we're working really hard to bring legacy XP tokens back for you guys. We're working really hard to try and ensure that you still do get access to all of that stuff that you've got saved up. Like, you deserve that. Like, that's obviously important to you. We get that, right? Treyarch never said that. They just said nothing about legacy XP. They didn't enable legacy XP, and then they accidentally enabled legacy XP, and they immediately took it away, saying, oh, nope, that was a bug. Nope, not intended. But Treyarch have now come out with a new statement 24 hours later saying, hold on, guys, actually, we are going to give you access to those tokens.
And obviously that is because they saw the community outrage with them removing it and being like, why? What's the point? And then they're like, okay, we'll give them
in a bit. So let me read you the statement now, because this is where I think the potential lie comes in, but there are also some other explanations that we should consider. Like, we shouldn't just automatically assume they're lying, but it should be something that we evaluate here. So they said, with the start of Season 1, a UI bug allowed players to activate legacy XP tokens in Black Ops 6. Unfortunately, it also introduced some potential risk to game stability, which is why it was patched yesterday. We realize how much players appreciate being able to redeem legacy XP tokens in both Black Ops 6 and Warzone, so we're currently testing a way to implement this change correctly in a future update. This allows us time to ensure stability is maintained before we reintroduce this feature. In the interim, players can activate any legacy XP tokens in Warzone. Any tokens applied in Warzone will also apply to Black Ops 6 should you switch titles or modes. We look forward to sharing more about this change next week. Thank you for your patience. So,
first things first, what Like, what stability problems would this cause? Like, that I don't understand. Like, they were in there, they were working, everyone was using them, causing no problems, and they're still in Warzone. And how can they be activatable in Wars? It doesn't make any sense.
Like I said, let's evaluate this, right? There are a few things here that sort of stand out in the statement. Number one, they're saying that introducing the Legacy XP feature in the UI introduced potential risk to game stability. And I just want us to think for a second, what does that actually mean? Like, what are they on about? Because at face value,
what are they on
the
about?
idea that the game stability was impacted because double XP was turned on is kind of weird, right? Seeing as we just had a double XP weekend like a week ago.
And a full day of people using the tokens.
Clearly, people having double XP is not a problem. And clearly, if they're telling people they can activate the tokens in Warzone and then still use them in Black Ops 6, then there's no stability issue there. Like, there's no problem with stability of people having them active. So that would suggest that the reason there was game stability impacted is just the act of pressing the enable button in the Black Ops 6 menu. Because like I said, the actual XP itself, like once enabled, it's already hooked up that way. It works in Warzone. They're telling us to do it in Black Ops 6. So like, it's fine. So it's just using that menu in the Black Ops 6 UI.
Which, I don't know if he's going to say this, you can already do because you can earn double XP tokens through the battle pass, which means that enabling them, you can already do.
Causes game stability problems. Like, it seems really weird, right? Now, number two, they say, we realize how much players appreciate being able to redeem their Legacy XP, right? But they've not mentioned that previously. Like, they haven't said last week, we're working really hard to bring back Legacy XP, guys. Like, no. This is clearly a response to the fact that we've all made us think about it over the last 24 hours because we feel like it's not fair that they gave us that double XP and then they were just like, yeah, nope.
Which is wild because if that update never reintroduced those tokens, this would not even be a conversation.
Actually, you have to just do it without the double XP tokens. Sorry, fellas. And number three, they say we're testing a way to implement it in a future update and we'll share more next week, which again goes back to this idea that it just being there in the UI was unstable somehow. And so I think there are a few interpretations here of what's going on that I honestly think are all valid. I think that
cynicism.
if you are a maximally cynical person about Treyarch and Activision, etc., you're going to see this and just be like, they're just lying for no reason. Like, they introduced the XP tokens and then they took it away and they wanted people to not have that XP, or they wanted to try and prevent people from getting it too quickly so that they could keep people grinding the game for longer. But then they saw the backlash and they were like, oh, actually, this is a real PR disaster. We need to revert our decision here, but we need to kind of find a way to smooth it over and make it seem like we weren't evil in the first.
Like, would it be better if they just straight up said, oh, we didn't want you to use those tokens, but now that we messed up, we're giving them back? Like, would that be a better response? I don't know.
So we'll just say it was because of game stability, right? That's the maximally cynical take. And it's one that I don't blame you if that's your opinion. I really don't. And I think that seeing as there's already so many other things in the game that cause game stability. Like, for example, this charm causes game stability problems right now. It's not a potential game stability problem. It is a game stability problem. You get past the 1,000 kill tracker, it totally ruins your game. The game stability is impacted. Is this reverted within hours of it being implemented? No. Like, it's still there. So clearly, game stability in one area is very high priority. Game stability in another is just ignored. So it makes sense to be a bit cynical about that, right? And to question it. But I think that there is also a non-cynical take that you can have to say, well, at the end of the day, it's positive, right? We're getting our double XP tokens back. That's
like this take would just be like, hey, they listened to us. Like, they messed up. We spoke out. They listened to us. That's like almost the positive.
Freaking awesome. So like, maybe you don't care whether or not they're lying, whether or not they're justifying it, whether or not you feel like you've been communicated to in the appropriate way, or they've gone about this the right way, or whatever. You might be like, don't care, got my double XP, I'm good. Like, that's the outcome I was looking for. It went a weird way to get there, but we're here now, so it's fine. So if on one side it's maximally cynical, and on one side it's minimally cynical, it's just like taking them at face value, taking them at their word 100%, right? I think that there is then a middle ground take, which is more or less
the right ground.
It is good that we're getting the double XP back. So that's the minimal cynicism kind of coming through there, saying we're really appreciative of this, right? This is very good. But also, because the maximally cynical camp exists, because those people are there, it might be worthwhile saying this is good, but there is room for this to be communicated better so that this whole furor doesn't happen in the first place, right? For example, those middle ground people might say, hey, Treyarch, in the patch notes yesterday, you didn't say anything about the tokens causing game instability.
Yes.
Right? And if you had said at the time, we're removing this just for a bit because we know how many people...
This is very true. This is a really good point. If they would have put in the patch notes, hey, we're removing the legacy unlock tokens because they're causing stability issues or for whatever reason, we're going to be bringing them back, there would have been nothing wrong with that. But because they were like, oh, they weren't supposed to be there, bye-bye. Like,
really love these, but it's going to cause game instability right now, and so we'll update you next week when we're going to bring it back. If they'd said that then, at the time, which they should have been able to do, because as they've said in this new post, they know how important it is to everyone, right? And if they already know that, then they should have already known that 24 hours ago as well, right? So use that knowledge to communicate with the player base and preempt their outcry about this being removed, right? Don't give the maximally cynical camp a massive amount of runway and ground to say, well, this is Activision doing Activision things, and this is the classic case of them trying to nickel and dime the player out of things that they've already earned and forcing them to...
Yeah, because they want you to go out and get the promotional products, to get the Little Caesars, to get the monster, to get whatever thing, to get that double XP. They want you to go and do all of that. Or buy bundles, or buy the battle pass to get these things. They don't want you to just already have all of this, because then why would any of that stuff matter?
Grind for longer. That conversation was always going to be there if you don't give any context as to what you're doing, and you let people just imagine the reason for something. Because the cynical people don't like Activision. So if you're giving them room to imagine anything, they're going to imagine the most cynical possible reasoning. And those middle ground people might then also say, in the blog post today, does it make sense to characterize it as just potential game stability? Like, does it make sense to word it that way when you could so easily give a bit more context or characterize it in a way that we're going to understand, right? Like,
I mean, if I was them and like it was that situation where we added it in, people freaked out about it, I would have just been like, hey, we see how passionate you are about these tokens. Here they are. Like, that's all you need to say. Like, you don't need to give this whole like roundabout reasoning for, oh, well, it messed up the game stability and Timmy's out to lunch, so we're going to have to wait a week and he's getting the whole office lunch, so maybe it'll be a couple more days. Like
in the middle ground between the cynic and the opposite, you're never going to be there like, oh, yeah, pressing that button in the menu did cause everybody's game to crash all at once, because it didn't, right? So I think it would be really helpful if in the communication you said, like, it causes game instability in this way, or through this lens, or in this part of the game's backend, or with this server thing, or like, it doesn't need to be a technical explanation necessarily. It just needs to help us understand what the hell game...
Yeah, like even if it's like with the cross launch of Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 6, it's causing issues switching between them, or it causes like your XP tokens to duplicate if you go between the two. I don't know.
Instability you're even talking about, because as far as we're concerned, the actual game instability problems that are there right now are not being removed within hours, whereas this is. So it just gives room, right? It sows the seed of cynicism because it looks so obviously like a white lie that you're doing to save face, and then you're just going to move on from it like nothing happened, right? So I'd love to hear from you guys. Where do you stand on this? Are you in the cynical camp that just thinks that Activision is just lying straight up to try and save face? Do you not care at all?
Honestly, I'm pretty positive about Black Ops 6 and pretty positive about Call of Duty as a whole. But I honestly do think that this is them trying to save face. And I think it's stupid. I think if they would have just been honest and just were like, hey, like, we didn't want this to be in the game. We want people playing our game for as long as possible, for whatever reason, for the community or even for the investors. And but we saw how passionate you were, so we want to listen to our community. That would have been a better statement in my opinion.
Or because you think that ultimately double XP is double XP, we're getting it back, so what's the big deal? Or do you lie somewhere in the middle where you feel like they could have maybe communicated this better at the time or communicated this better now, but ultimately it is still a win that the double XP is returning?
That's where I'd
love
fall.
to hear your thoughts. I personally feel like the communication overall for Black Ops 6 could improve, especially in zombies, but could
honestly, the communication for Black Ops 6 is probably the best we've ever received for a Call of Duty game. And it's still like a 6 out of 10. Like, right? Like, it's really, really good for Call of Duty standards. Like, for Call of Duty standards, it's like 9 out of 10. But for like, as a whole, for a live service game, it's like 6 out of 10 because like there's things that they don't add into the patch notes. There's things that probably don't need to be changed and are changed, like, and then no reason made for it. So again, like it's like 6 out of 10, but for Call of Duty, it's like 9 or
several
even
areas.
10
That's
out of
one
10.
of my biggest gripes, I think, with the mode right now. But the game itself is in a really fantastic place overall.
Agreed.
So I have a lot of patience with them for some of those things. I just do want the communication to improve. So I feel like I'm kind of in that middle camp where I would like to see this dealt with better in the future. But I'm also extremely happy that this is obviously being reverted and we are getting the double XP. I think that that is a win for everyone. Let me know your thoughts below, and sorry about the sunglasses. I know it looks weird.
I'm still waiting for the diss track.
I'll see you guys next time. Is Treyarch...
So yeah, that's where I fall on that. It's they probably are lying, and or maybe not lying, but like making up an excuse, which I guess is technically lying. And there's no reason for it. I think like that is something they could have just been like, we wanted people to play longer, and you guys seem really passionate about it. We like to listen to our community. Flip it into a positive, like still be manipulative with it. Be like, and we listen to our community, and I think we've done a better job this year than any other year, and we're following through with this one as well. Done.